Hello, everyone. My name is Lynn Heitz. I'm president of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania, and you are listening to White Canes Connect.
Hey there, PA Federationists. Welcome to another episode of White Canes Connect, presented by the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. My name is David Goldstein. I am the first vice president of the NFB of PA. Joining me today, as always, White Canes Connect creator and co-host Lisa Bryant. Lisa, how are you today?
I am good, David. And what do you think of this little sort of turnaround? So you were actually a guest on our podcast, but it was nice talking to you and Lynn about the convention in Erie. And so glad that for the most part, things went off without a hitch.
It really was a very, very nice event. And as always, there's always going to be a person didn't get vegetables with their meal or something like that. But for the most part, it was outstanding. And as I talk about in the interview part of the show, if Erie were closer, it would be on a regular rotation. I'm pretty sure of it because it was just an outstanding event. The food was outstanding. Now, the bar was pretty low from last year's in Harrisburg at the Crown Plaza, but it was, in fact, I had said I was sitting up front with Pam at the banquet and the person came over with the food. And I said, "What is that?" And Pam said, "It's a tray with food on it." I said, "I know, I'm joking," because last year they had, if you remember, Lisa, they had the like bread crates that had the foods and they were sitting them on the floor and taking the meals out of that at the Crown Plaza. Just 100 times different and better. The staff was so accommodating and friendly. They wanted to be there. They wanted to help us both in the conference area and the way the ambassador conference center is set up. It's in the middle of two hotels. There's a Hilton Garden Inn on one end and a courtyard on the other end. And you could get to the hotels through the conference center. It was just a nice setup. And there's just not an easy way to get to Erie.
Well, great job on that. And also, congratulations. You are now the convention chair for 2025. That's going to keep you very busy. Any thoughts about that? What are you kind of working on? I think we touched a little bit on the things that you learned this year that you want to do differently next year, but anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, there's a few things that I want to do differently. And we talk about that in the interview. One of the things that I think is very important are sponsorships from whether it's companies in the Harrisburg area or in Pennsylvania in general. We should be able to get some more of those. And I just want to start earlier because if you start earlier, and I always think of, if anybody has seen the movie The Shawshank Redemption, which I know you have not, if anybody has seen that, Andy Dufresne writes one letter every week to get books for the library. And somebody said to him, "Well, now that you got some books, what are you going to do now?" He said, "I'm going to write 2 letters a week." And so hopefully that will be by starting early and going over and over and over with different companies, we'll be able to get more sponsorships. That's my goal, at least. Obviously, to get more folks in the event, another thing, it will be easier because it is so much closer to where the bulk of our members come from, which is the southeastern part of the state. If you look at where everybody came from, yes, we had folks from Erie, and again, if it was just closer or there was a better way, if there was a train, it would make it that much easier to get there. And people would want to go. I'm telling you, it was just outstanding. The event was outstanding. It's just that it takes a while to get there.
2 things. I will see Shawshank Redemption before next year's convention. I'm on record. The other thing is, for anyone who does not know or did not attend last year, we kind of got to stop comparing it to last year because that was just such a anomaly of its own. You know, in previous years, our conventions have been much better.
Just everything just didn't work out. Nothing other than getting on the train and being able to go. And like I said in my own podcast, even though the service was terrible, the hotel wasn't great, and all sorts of issues, it's still always great to get together with people. Everybody still had fun at the bar after all the the convention stuff was done, hanging out with people they only get to see once or twice a year, maybe at conventions and Washington seminar and things like that. So it's still nice. It's just that it could have been a lot better. It could have been a lot better last year. And yes, this one really raises the bar for next year.
So you said that. So you've said that. That means you've got your work cut out for you.
I really do. I do.
You've got to impress yourself. So let's hear this conversation with me, you, and Lynn. So today is a little different because normally, David, you would be introducing our guest, but today you are a guest. You and Lynn are here to tell the 3 or 4 of us that did not go to this year's state convention what we all missed, and probably not going to help my already severe case of FOMO, but it would still be educational anyway. So welcome, Lynn, and welcome, David.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Let's start with the journey up there. That was the dreaded part of the convention this year, and it turned out to be a deal breaker for some of us. So I'll let each of you talk about the bus ride. How many hours was it? Was it really as horrible as we anticipated? From what I've heard, it sounds like you made the best of it.
It was long. There's no other way to put it. And as I talked in my own podcast, everybody showed up for the bus at 12th and Filbert, probably by 7:15, 7:30-ish, hoping the bus would be there sometime between 7:30 and 8. And the bus, of course, as always is the case in Philadelphia during rush hour, was delayed on the Schuylkill. So I don't think Mindy showed up until closer to 8 o'clock, and we pushed off at 8:34. The ride wasn't bad. I mean, the seats were comfortable. Everything was comfortable about it. We did trivia on there. Mark Bias was the big winner of the Target gift cards. He won $20. We did. And I have to apologize to Virginia Parker. One of the questions I did for trivia was there were 7 states at the first National Federation of the Blind Convention. Name them. And so like we do as a blindness organization, you first say your name. Well, of course, Virginia kept saying Virginia, and I kept saying, no, Virginia was not one of them. Meanwhile, she had she had an answer. And finally, I realized that sometimes I should call on her. But we did questions and we stopped a couple of times. And the issue is, of course, when you stop, if somebody has to use the bathroom, and there was a bathroom on the bus that everybody was told to use for emergency use only because whatever went in there on the way up was going to be coming back with us on the way back. So it wasn't bad until we were probably a half an hour outside of Philadelphia. We started noticing the smell. But otherwise, it wasn't bad. It was just long. It's just a long ride. It's around 400 miles. We left at 8:34 and pulled into Erie at the Hilton Garden Inn at 6:18. I only know that because somebody in front of me had said, "Oh, it's 6:18. We can still get dinner." And again, we stopped at a Wendy's on the way. The longest part of the journey was from Bellefonte, which is just outside State College, to Erie. That was about 3 hours. But otherwise, we went anywhere from an hour and 20 minutes to maybe 2 hours from connecting the dots from Allentown to Harrisburg, then to Bellefonte. Again, the longest part was from Bellefonte. It wasn't terrible. It was just, a lot. It was just a long ride. That's all it was.
Were you on the bus, Lynn?
So no, I was not actually on the bus. My husband and I were carrying items in our car to state convention. So we had to make a stop in Harrisburg to pick some things up. And then we went ahead and drove on to Erie, but we got caught up in some construction traffic on Route 80. So, it actually took us about 10 hours driving our own personal vehicle, which is about what it took the bus. So, it wasn't a horrible thing. The one thing to realize is Pennsylvania is a really, really broad state.
Very spread out.
And when you think of traveling on a diagonal from the far southeast corner to the farthest northwest corner, it's quite a journey. And I know there were some people that were really concerned about the trip, but, those of us who don't drive, have never driven, rely on public transportation a lot to get from here to there, we realize that, sometimes these are the kinds of things we need to do in order to get to where we want to go, if it's someplace we want to be. And obviously, the people on the bus wanted to go to state convention, or there wouldn't have been, 40 odd people in Philadelphia getting on that bus.
To that point, let's talk about the events, the sessions and, just what went on. So what was the first full day? What did that entail? David, why don't you start with that?
The first day was set up where we had the Senior Possibilities Fair in the morning. And I spent that time not in the Possibilities Fair, but helping Michelle set up the sound system in the atrium, which was the large portion where General Sessions was going to be, where the tech seminar Thursday afternoon was held. So I was busy doing that, obviously helping other folks from time to time when they didn't know where they needed to go for the Senior Possibilities Fair. And let me just say this, backing up to what you had asked before. Yes, it was a long journey. If that place were closer, it would be in a normal rotation of places to go. It was that good. But so we did Senior Possibilities Fair in the morning. Dr. David Hurd was there, again, doing a presentation that kind of went against the Senior Possibilities Fair. So you could go to the Possibilities Fair. You could go listen to him if anybody was at the convention last year, or a couple of years ago, I should say, in Pittsburgh. Just a great presenter of all sorts of NASA and space and things like that, and had some more books to give away. I heard a lot of people tell me how great it was. In fact, I was talking to Tess from Patton, and she really enjoyed it. And then there was the box lunch, and the lunches, again, Lisa, if you think back to last year and what a mess the meals were in Harrisburg at the Crown Plaza, the exact opposite. Large portions of pasta salad with the sandwich and everything else that came with the box lunch. And then after lunch was the tech seminar that ran from 1 to 4. We had from Syringe was there, and we had Patton present, and we had familiar person to you, Deborah Erickson from the Blind Kitchen. They were all there. We had Dan Gardner from View Plus talking about his embossers and things like that. It was just a lot of interesting information that was given out at that. We had the best, I think, what everybody was interested in, and what I noticed a lot of people doing during the convention. Hey, Meta, blah, 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 blah. We had someone from Sunglass Hut in Erie come in and do a presentation on the Meta Ray-Bans. And then David Dino Terrace talked about how you can use the Meta Ray-Bans with Ira. And just almost a game changer with any of the assistive technology. If you remember, we had Envision on early on when we first started the podcast. Those glasses were between $3,000 and $4,000. And these Meta Ray-Bans are a little plus or minus $300. Maybe on a holiday deal, you can get them less than $300, but somewhere between $300 and $400, you're all in. And they're just so helpful. You don't have to pull your phone out and wave it around to hear what the signs are. So that was Michael from Sunglass Hut walked around after he presented while David was talking about how you use them with Ira. And he was showing everybody there, going from table to table, demonstrating them and letting them feel them and things like that. So it was a lot of good stuff. And then that night was the pasta bar and the veteran ceremony, and also a karaoke event. And it seems like folks enjoyed that. But that was a rundown of the first day.
And Lynn, what were some other highlights of either sessions or presentations that you can recall were, some really kind of in particular special moments?
So I have to say that the people who ran the hospitality suite did an absolutely phenomenal job. Absolutely phenomenal job. They were not only very hospitable, they had so much stuff there for people It was just absolutely incredible. I think, kudos really need to go out to the individuals who organized that. So let's see. So last year we premiered a Diabetes Action Network group.
Mhm.
And so this year they met again and they had a really nice group. They're looking to be a division. So maybe next year we will end up having a Dan division, which would be really, really nice.
Yeah.
There was a Parents of Blind Children division meeting on Friday, and Carol Clancy from the Bureau of Special Education was there. Sheena Rancher, who Sheena used to actually work for the Louisiana Center for the Blind, and she actually came to Pennsylvania the first time we had a Bell program in Pittsburgh, and she actually ran the Bell program in Pittsburgh, which was really awesome. But Sheena now has her PhD, and she is a professor at Boston University, and she came and did a presentation about the importance of Braille for our young adults, our children in school, and the need for them to have Braille education. She actually spoke on our Saturday agenda as well. And, it's the fight that never ends is, if you have sighted children, your children get reading and writing and language arts every day. But if you're a blind kid, you're lucky if you get Braille once a week. And, where does that place that person in the grand scheme of their education and becoming an adult and becoming employed? The presentation Sheena did on Saturday was called Braille, the Language of the Blind, because really it is. As David said, Chattica Ellett from the University of Pennsylvania came all the way from Silicon Valley, California, to demonstrate the syringe, which is an option that would allow blind parents to fill syringes with liquid medication for their children or maybe their parents or what have you. So she had a table in the exhibit hall. She also did a presentation on Saturday. It was very exciting to have her there. The banquet was really great. I thought the most wonderful thing about the banquet was the food actually came and it was hot.
Well, you know what? I wanted to give you a chance to, go through some of the sessions presentations, but I did want to talk specifically about the banquet and our national leader. Either one of you can start talking about Tracy's speech or, his talk. Any memorable highlights from that?
The way he was telling the story, it was one of the way he told it made me sit at the edge of my seat wondering, hey, what's going to happen next? He talked about how when he started to lose his sight and what was going on and he talked about changing his daughter and she dropped off the changing table and things like that. Everybody was wondering, is he going to talk about, did his child get taken away from him because he was blind and had trouble with it? It was just as somebody told me, they thought it was a very different speech, not better or worse than any of the others, but everybody that we've had over the years has a little different spin on how they do their banquet speeches. Some are more rah-rah. This was one that was a story that showed, hey, he could do it and everybody else in the room should be able to do it as well. His kids are now obviously older and so forth. But that was what I thought about the speech when he was talking for a second, he was doing something and the kid got up and kind of shimmied off the changing table and had to go to the hospital and all that sort of stuff. But it was just it was a nice story. It was a good story that kept people interested in it throughout the time that he was giving it.
Sounds like he was very candid. the journey is, it's kind of paved with its bumps, for lack of a better word, bumps and bruises. And he was very candid about that and honest. I mean, that's real, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Lisa, I have to totally agree with David. The speech was very much, this is what happened to me. This is how I got through it. This is how I really felt as I was going through it. And, we can all think back, those of us who've been blind for quite a while, we can think back on things that have happened, with our kids or, maybe another family member. And it's like, God, if I could see, this wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
We had several people that were first timers at the convention this year. And so it was a really great story for them, just getting to know us like, oh, we're really real people.
What about our board for 2025? Lynn, why don't you run down the folks who are holding office and where are they in their terms?
So this year, there were 3 individuals on the board of directors whose terms were up. They were Angelina Angelsic, Michelle McManus, and Jason Polanski. Angelina stepped down from the board.
Mm-hmm.
So Stacy Leap was nominated and elected in her place.
Okay.
The executive board is currently myself as president, David Goldstein as first vice president, Emily Gillisberger, second vice president, Harriet Go secretary, Michelle Bernetsky is the acting treasurer, and then 3 board positions currently held by Denise Brown, Kirk Hunger, and Connie Shu. And those 8 positions will be up for election in 2025.
Why is there an imbalance of the amount of time? So, for example, there were 3 this year, and next year there's going to be 8. Was it at some point closer together where there might have been 6 one year, 5 another? How did it come to this?
So the 5 executive board officers are elected on the odd number years. It's the board positions that are 3 on, 3 off. So it's 3 board positions are nominated and elected with the executive board, and the other 3 board positions are the off year.
Okay.
The even numbered year. And that's really based on what our Constitution says.
Lynn, what would you want? And I guess I'm thinking especially of the first timers. What would you want people to have taken away from this experience? I mean, it doesn't have to be just as first timers, but just what are you hoping that people will do since attending the convention?
I would want them to understand that losing their vision is not the end of the world. It's a journey. It's really a journey. In fact, some people said to me when I started my presidential report on Saturday morning, and they're like, where is she going with this story? Where is she going? And it's, vision loss is a journey.
Yeah.
And we move through this journey at different paces, depending on who we are, depending on what our circumstances are and what our lifestyle is, what kind of supports we have. Some people can move through it very quickly, and we are here to support you through your journey. However fast or however slow it is, we are going to be there to help you and to provide guidance. We can't do it for you. This is a journey you must take yourself, but we will definitely be there as a guide for you.
And hopefully people will feel inspired to, if they've kind of been on the sidelines or on the fence about participating more, hopefully this will inspire that kind of like, come on in, I'm not going to say it, David. Dive in, get involved. Don't stay on the bench. I'm curious you talked very glowingly, but also very about how long the trip was, but, very glowingly about how smoothly things went. But were there any, not necessarily hiccups, but are there any lessons learned? Because I know we're already in the planning for 2025. Anything from this year that you want to apply as, let's be careful to make sure we do X or make sure we don't do Y? Any lessons learned?
There were a few things that I thought, and it starts out with registration. Some people showed up at the convention thinking they had registered and they hadn't. And of course, that falls mostly on me because there isn't a great way when you register for the convention, you don't get anything from us. And there's a little thank you message that pops up on the screen. But if you have little or no sight, it is not typical for the screen reader to pick that up. So you don't know, did it go through? You should get a email from the credit card, from PayPal, our credit card processor, saying, thank you for your purchase or something to that effect. Here's how much you spent. So if you don't get that, you should think, hey, I didn't register. So there's some things that I've been looking into, whether it's the form that we use, the WP forms is what we use, and we're trying to. And it's one of the things I talked about at our tech committee meeting a couple of weeks ago after the convention that we have to fix, because someone should get, for example, when somebody registers and you go through and you pick your meals and all that sort of stuff, the person who's doing that should get that via email. And I have not been able to figure out the way for that to happen. And
That's
so
very
there's
interesting. So we've never gotten that? Because why do I think that I have gotten it?
in the past, I would go and send that out, but I didn't have time to do that this year, and I couldn't figure out how to do that. In September, I had started playing around with it because I did think that that was an issue. So one of the pages that I worked on was a thank you page for bingo, and I got that to work. But then there were some circumstances where I had to do some unexpected traveling that knocked me back from doing the other, whether it was the professional registration or exhibit hall registration, or most importantly, just the plain old attendee registration that didn't go to a page. That's an easy fix, but it's still, I don't think, good enough. At least you would know if you registered. That's one thing. You would know if you registered by ending up at that page, and that will happen next year. But you should get the same thing that we get to show, hey, oh my God, I ordered the veggie instead of the ham on Friday. I don't want that. Who eats vegetables? You need to know in case there's an error. Right. And so that's the main thing that we're working on. So that's one thing and that has been bothering me. I knew 2 years ago that it could be an issue if I didn't have time to send out the exact things, forwarding it to the people. So it was a matter of clicking and at first, when I did it, I found out that I wasn't sending it to the recipient. I was sending it to PayPal because it was the person's name via PayPal, which just went to service@paypal.com. So I fixed that. But a couple other things. Registration was not very smooth this year. Some people couldn't register because there were times when there was nobody at the registration desk, and that I don't want to say has always been an issue, but has been a problem because sometimes some of the people who are working it wanted to go to whatever event. In this case, a couple of years ago, I know Brian Mackey was trying to find coverage for his mom because his mom wanted to go to the Possibilities Fair. And this year, I don't know what the story was. I don't know what happened there, but I know at least 3 people came to me and said, hey, I tried to register, but there was nobody there. One was a vendor, which is, so they never, the problem with not registering, I mean, they had registered online, but they didn't get their packet of tickets. So they didn't get their lunches and their dinners and whatever else. So that's something I've already enlisted my daughter to help out for next year, where she doesn't care about any of the events. So she will be able to sit the whole time at the registration and take care of that. So that I've already fixed, hopefully, unless she has to run to the bathroom. There were some other things. And I have to mention, and Lynn talked about hospitality. Pam and Connie, just outstanding, the hospitality. But what made it possible was their help from the Lions Club, Erie area Lions. And there was another area. I don't remember where they were from, but they were from like an hour away. And they were so unbelievably helpful. At first, I thought it was people from the hotel. And Pam said, no, they're the Lions. She had someone to work in the hospitality. So Pam was able to go and do the sessions. Sometimes she was presenting at the sessions, at general sessions. She talked about being a first timer at national convention. She did a little presentation during the Tech and Care of Business. So it was important to have that coverage so the room could remain open. We had plenty of great stuff in there, different foods and coffees and teas and candy and all sorts of things. And it was a nice room to boot. So, and it was real close to where the atrium was, where most of the events were held. So that was just outstanding. So hopefully we'll be able to continue that moving forward next year when we're back in Harrisburg.
That was going to be my question. Even before you said that the Lions Club was helpful there, I was thinking in my head, because I know Lynn has worked with them in Harrisburg. I actually have gone to an event here in Philadelphia where they were very present as volunteers. So I wonder if that's an option to find, a chapter there where they can assist with volunteering.
Yeah, that is somebody we'll definitely reach out to for next year, because again, they were just so helpful, whether it was guiding people to the different rooms or helping them find the elevators, or in a couple of instances, the lunches were being delivered to a table where anybody could just walk up and grab them. And coincidence was that when we were wondering who was going to hand out the lunches, somebody from the Lions Club, hey, what do you want me to do? And we took him over to the table, and he was the one collecting the tickets and handing out the lunches. So they were just
seem to know how to volunteer from what I personally have experienced. Lynn, anything you want to add to that? What you may have learned this year that you'll apply for going forward?
The one thing I heard, and I heard it from several people, was that the auction and the bingo were really awesome, but they ran incredibly late. We were actually, I believe, supposed to be out of that room before 10 o'clock, and it wasn't over until well after that. We need to keep more to a time schedule. When we have events, like even our sessions, if you have an hour and 15 minutes for the session, you need to remember that 15 minutes is the time for you to get your stuff cleaned up and out of the room so that the next presenter can get in and get themselves set up and get ready to go. So, I think we have to be, more mindful of that kind of thing too.
So we already have dates for next year and location, right?
Yes.
What are our dates for next year?
November 13th through the 16th at the Best Western Premiere in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And the blind merchants have already been in touch with the mayor's office in Harrisburg. And, that's the convention's actually on their calendar, and a lot of media as well for next year. And that is something that I do want to also mention about this year's convention. There was a lot of media coverage this year. Connie and I did an interview on Thursday night. There was media that came to the Possibilities Fair that was Wednesday night. There was media that came to the Possibilities Fair on Thursday. There was media that came on Friday. There was media at the Veterans Celebration on Thursday night. We did get the word out there in Erie about us being there. We're looking forward to, having that opportunity again next year.
Was any of that captured, or will any of that be captured? Will we see that on our website? Will we be able to see clips of anything?
I'll put the links in the show notes for the ones that I have the coverage of. I think I believe, Lynn, you and or Connie were on all of the affiliates that are up there, NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox.
Wow.
But I don't know if I have all the links. I know I have at least 3 links, and 2 of them may be the same, so I'm not 100%. But what I have, I'll put in the show notes, assuming they're still live on the site.
Now, I'm just curious, how did that word get out? Who do you credit?
I know the interview that Connie and I did Wednesday night at the local TV station. Connie actually herself reached out to the station and obtained that. I know one of the other interviews I did at the convention site itself was from that same station. I don't know. I know that David's daughter actually helped formatting a press release. So I'm not 100% sure who that went to and how much of that was actually credited for the media coverage.
Well, whatever you did this year, I'm sure we will do a rinse and repeat. Because if it worked, then it should, especially with Harrisburg being just a little more, I don't know, I guess it's just a more of a hub even than Erie. So that should be good, right?
We are really looking forward to next year. David and I had an opportunity to go out and tour the facility. We spent a long time speaking with the director of sales and, reviewing some of the things that we've had happen and, that we don't want repeated. The space looks really, really nice. The sleeping rooms, they showed us some of the sleeping rooms. They seem really nice. The hotel actually has a really nice restaurant. So, we're looking forward to a really, really nice time. And, hopefully our numbers will be back up to where they have been. I mean, we did fall a little short on numbers being in Erie this year. I did actually go back. I was looking on my computer, and I found out that we were actually in Erie in 2000 at the Avalon Hotel. Because, I found the agenda for that convention. I mean, we did have a good crowd, no doubt about it. But we're looking for a bigger crowd next year.
Well, it sounds like, again, for those of us who just said, no way, because of that 9-10 hour bus ride, it sounds like we missed a good one, but that's okay, because hopefully Harrisburg will also deliver. So great job, despite the long travel, great job in the venue. It sounds like the venue was fantastic. Great job in soliciting.
Oh, the venue.
Yeah. And even how you laid it out. I mean, sounds like the different programming, the what did you say? You had a pasta night. Did you say a taco?
Right. Pasta bar the one night and taco bar the following.
It's fun. That's really fun stuff. Was anything recorded?
The plans are for that. If you weren't there, or even if you were and you're interested in them, my plan is over the next few weeks during the Christmas break when Lisa and I are relaxing.
Will we? We'll get to do that?
When Lisa and I are relaxing, I mean, I won't be relaxing because I love doing this. So we are going to cut up the different general sessions and the tech seminar that we have. So over the next, between now and early January, what we'll have to put out will be out via podcast. And you'll notice it'll say Erie 2024, and then it'll say the person's name who's presenting and what they're presenting about.
I'm sure you're only taking what seems like maybe a brief little sigh before you start it all over again and get things in gear for 2025.
So, Lisa, I would like to, if it's okay, there's a couple things I'd be really remiss if I didn't say. And first of all, we were privileged to have Congressman Mike Kelly come to the convention on Thursday afternoon, and Mike Kelly spoke. Mike Kelly has introduced the Access Technology Affordability Act in Congress. Oh gosh, probably for the last 2, 3 Congresses now, and is planning on introducing it again in the upcoming Congress. And, the other thing is volunteers. We are in the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. We are all volunteers. And it's so important when somebody comes and realizes that there's something going on and they say, what can I do to help you? It's so important to acknowledge the fact that they want to help and to give them something to do, because that also gives them a sense of purpose. It gives them a sense of buy-in. This is their convention too. And so, I want to make sure that, in upcoming conventions that we do, manage to take the time to provide those opportunities to our members who come up and say, I want to volunteer. What do you want me to do?
That is something that is very important. And I know a lot of people wanted to help and just weren't given the task to, okay, yeah, you can help by doing this or you can help by doing that. Sometimes you just have to look at the situation and say, okay, I know that I can help this out by doing this, and just do that. That's what I did. Pam Baccaro did a lot of that stuff too. And you just kind of have to be proactive. If you can see somebody needs help, I stopped someone in the exhibit hall because I thought they were they were having trouble, and it was somebody who was trying to train her meta glasses. And I said, "Oh, do you need help?" And she said, "No." I said, She said, "I'm just trying to train these glasses to, work the right way." And I don't know if that's even possible. I talked to a couple of people one said yes, one said no, whatever. But she said, "I noticed you're running around a lot." She said, "I offered to help a few times and I was never taken up on the offer." And there were a lot of people there that wanted to do that. And we can't let that happen again, where people want to help.
Right.
Let them help. Everybody's interested in helping. Everybody's there interested in helping because they've been on the other side where they've needed help. And so it's important, like Lynn said, that if somebody's willing to help, we've got to take them up on that. And hopefully that is another thing we learned.
Is there a volunteer committee for the convention? Like, is there a committee that is, I guess, probably would make sense if someone from the volunteer committee is aware of what the other planning committees, or I guess what the planning committee is doing, and sort of just being keen to where the opportunities are, and then they're constantly recruiting.
There was no
folks.
committee. There is no committee for that. And I don't necessarily think you need a committee if you go to when we start having the convention planning meetings. I think that if you're interested, like this year, we had a volunteer form where you could fill out a form, and again, the people that signed up there never got any kind of direction or, hey, we can use you doing this.
Right.
And I don't know that those same people that signed up were also at all the planning meetings. I don't know what the situation was there. It was a Google form, and maybe next year we bring it in-house and use the same forms that we use on the website. So there's a little bit more visibility for folks, whatever the reasoning was. And I'm pretty sure everybody saw the list who needed to see the list, saw it. So I don't know what the answer there is. But there was a sign-up sheet that people signed up to volunteer, and I think it asked what hours they were available and things like that. But again, I didn't know. I knew that I was going to be doing whatever I could, and same thing with everybody else. We knew we were going to be in the hospitality, and we were going to, Lisa, when folks are. I've always said it on my podcast, when you have a little bit of sight, even if it sucks so bad you think you can't see anything, it's 10 times better, 1,000,000 times better than somebody that has none and just needs to get to the elevator or the restroom, or they need to get to the table for their boxed lunch. It's just, so whenever anybody can help, it's just important that they do. And like Lynn said, it just makes it better for everyone involved. First of all, you feel better doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's something that hopefully next year we utilize better than we did this year.
Well, again, thanks for filling in the gaps and kind of making me wish I were there, but it's said and done, so no point in regretting. But all I can say is Harrisburg will be here, 2025 will be here before you know it. So everybody get your ducks in order so you can be there, or be square, as they say. But again, thanks, David. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
So, David, great conversation with you and Lynn. And I don't know, maybe I should have been there, but I guess no point crying over spilled milk.
Right. Can't go back now, but I know you'll be there next year. I'm sure I'll be leaning on you to give a little helping hand with some of the things that we've got going on for next year as the planning starts. So one thing that I can say to folks, November 13th to the 16th at the Best Western Premiere in Harrisburg. When you order your train tickets, V819, so you get the cheapest possible tickets for travel by train. It's less than $35 from Philadelphia and back to Harrisburg. Of course, if you're either a senior or qualified as disabled, you get that deal. And you have to call in for it. You can't just do it via the app or their website. But I'm looking forward to next year. And again, the bar was raised pretty high this year because of how nice everything was there. I'll get a couple of tries at the Best Western Premiere at a couple of meetings and parties that I'm going to there over the next month. So I'm interested to see how they do. We signed the contract, so hopefully it's good because we can't undo it now. But we'll get an idea of what, when we go to the Blind Merchants Party, that's an actual party. So we'll see how the hospitality is there and how the staff is and things like that. And then later in December, I'll be at a meeting out there and I'll see how that's all handled. So I'm looking forward to getting out there because, again, the place, I know a lot of people hear Best Western and you think, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
This place,
economy.
Very nice. Right. Yeah. You think, the one thing that it is not in downtown Harrisburg. It is around 10 or 15 minutes outside of downtown. So if you're going, there's a free shuttle to go from the train station to the hotel. Everything about it points to a good spot for us. Again, If you're in Erie, it's a long drive. It's a 5-hour drive. I understand now how folks on the western half of the state, whether State College, Erie, Pittsburgh, I understand what they have to do now when they come to Harrisburg or even State College for some of them. That's over 3 hours. Again, bar is raised high, and hopefully I'll be able to deliver what I want to deliver. I don't know if it'll happen.
I have no doubt you will deliver. I think you're being a little too modest. So again, looking so forward to Harrisburg and being a little closer, so a little less of a road trip. But also, again, we talked about the lessons that you guys learned. And I know you, David, and you're very meticulous about dotting your I's, crossing your T's. So folks, this should be really great. I know we've got national before that and everyone gets all excited about that. But I think we're going to have another great state convention.
As I mentioned in the interview, I've already enlisted my daughter, Jane. She'll be coming down from New York to help out both with the registration type things where, like I said in the interview, she's not going to be interested in going to any of the other things. Her main reason to be there is to do the registration and to help troubleshoot any kind of issues there might be. I would have loved to have
to work.
Yeah, she's there to work. And the funny thing is, she asked for the time off. I asked while I was in Erie, I said, listen, you got to come help me next year. I thought, well, I'll get my wife to come, Liz, but we can't bring Ziggy. What would we do with him? No, he would tear the room to the shreds and it would wouldn't work. And I thought, wait a minute, Jane does this for a living, planning events and things like that in her PR job. Mm-hmm. And as a publicist, she does events that are more than this. So I really feel that she'll be able to help both. Like Lynn had said in the interview, she took what was written in the press release that I don't know if Emily or Michelle created it, and just kind of reworded it a little bit and changed it around a little bit. So that was helpful. The key for us for next year, the media coverage was just unreal. And I don't know that we can duplicate
That's
that.
great. Yeah.
I mean, it was just unreal. Every time I turned around, and one night I happened to be watching, the girl had told us what channel she was with, and it'll be on at 11 o'clock. And I said, oh, if I'm in the room, I'll take a look. And I took a look and I'm watching, and they were talking to Connie. And then they had some B-roll, and I'm like, oh, there's Chris Westbrook. Oh, there's so-and-so. Oh, there I am. And just watching the different folks who were on, it was just very cool.
I'm sure we'll be updating folks along the way to see what opportunities there are to help in the convention planning. And of course, once we're there, where we'll need all hands on deck. So I'm sure you'll keep us posted on that as well.
100%. And if anybody is interested in helping as we move forward, please reach out to us. Or if you were at the convention and want to chime in on what you liked, what you didn't like, please give us a call. 267-338-4495. You've got up to 3 minutes. Leave your name and town. If you do leave a voicemail, again, 267-338-4495. I'd like to hear from you.
And if you prefer email, our email address is whitecanesconnect@gmail.com.
Lisa, I'm sorry that you missed the convention, but I know you'll be next year and it will be a lot of fun.
I will be there with bells on, and I'm sure it will be. But thanks again, David. You were a great guest.
It was hard to be on the other end of the thing.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Take care.